When I turned 50, it was it was probably one of the most disappointing, depressing days of my life. Holy crap, man. I'm broke. I'm broke, man. I have nothing but the check from my client that I just worked for. I grew up watching The Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful, man. And you see these fine women, and you go, wow, I want that. I want that, man. This is what love is. This is what a marriage is. This is what a relationship is, man. I want that. And I used to always say that when I grow up, I'm going to marry a white woman. This sounds really weird, even saying that out loud now. Wait a minute. 50 sucks, but 60 can be.
All right, well, cool. Welcome to another episode. We always like to start off the questions. So, podcast are called Creating Freedom.
Cool.
When you hear that, I mean, what does that mean to you?
Creating freedom, it's like, for me, it's like freedom of time, freedom of, money, freedom of just choices, the freedom to do whatever I want on my terms, to live wherever I want, to not be tied down to a location for any number of any reason, basically, right? So, if I wanna fly to New York, I wanna just get a ticket and fly to New York. You know what I mean? If I wanna take a cruise, I just wanna get a ticket and take a cruise. That's what being free means to me, right? It's just living life on my terms, doing whatever I feel like in the moment. So, once I understood the connection between money and being free, I've just always wanted to have a lot of money, because money does buy you freedom.
It does definitely help with freedom.
To buy your happiness.
Well, it gives you definitely experience. You're more wired to more experience in life. And I think in life, life is about as many experiences can you get, and the world that we live in,
100%.
money kind of open them doors.
It certainly does, and people will argue that money doesn't buy you happiness, and it may not buy you happiness itself, like the happiness, but the things that it allows you to do makes you happy. So essentially, it kind of does buy you happiness, doesn't it?
Because happiness is like where they say it comes from within.
Yeah.
But like if you're out, it's not like happy.
Exactly, right? That stress is the within, right?
Like we always say that, working in a job that you don't like, waking up at a time you don't like, living in a place that you don't like. How can you find happiness within?
Exactly, 100%, right? So if you have the money to do those things, to live where you like, to choose not to work, you don't want to, then you're gonna be happy. Gonna be a lot of happy, So yeah.
So yeah, man, let's take this back then, man. It's like tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Sam. Well, my full name is Reynold Samuel, but everyone calls me Sam. I've been Sam since 1993, basically. I was working for a guy from Florida, and he goes, what's your name? So I told him Reynold Samuel, and he goes, so do we call you Ray or Sam? I'm like, call me Sam. And that was it. I was Sam from that day, right? So, born and raised on a small island, Dominica. It's between Guadeloupe and Martinique in the Caribbean. And grew up in a poor family. Father left when I was like quite young and stuff like that. Raised by my mom with my stepfather. Had a stepfather when I was, I think the earliest memory of that, I was probably 4 years old. My mom got with him, and I'm one of 6 kids, the youngest of 6 kids. And after school at 19, I moved to Saint Martin, another small island in the Caribbean.
Saint Martin?
Yeah.
And where my uncle is, he sells like yachts there. Yeah, for all the people in Miami that come through.
Yeah, really? Wow, your uncle lives in Saint Martin.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Wow. Saint Martin is
tiny as well.
Yeah, 37 square mile island. You know, St. Martin is to me one of the most beautiful islands. It's got a dear place in my heart, and partly because that's really where I was able to spread my wings. You know, got out of school at 19, and a lot of firsts happened for me there. You know, my first real job, or my first vehicle that I owned, and my first real date. You know, my first true love kind of thing, right? There's a lot of
for that
firsts.
one.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a lot of first time there. So I totally I'm in love with St. Martin. Always, you know, it's just funny. I've always thought if I was to retire to a Caribbean island, it would be St. Martin, not Dominica, where I was born. You know, it's like so. Lived there for about 4 years, and worked a couple of different jobs, bartending and working on the beach and stuff like that. I met this amazing girl from Canada, and moved to Canada and got married, and we're married for 19 years. We were together for about 20 years, married for 19, and have two amazing daughters, you know, 22 and 24. Well, actually, Jasmine will be 24 on December 10th. So that's like just two incredible young ladies, you know. Worked a number of jobs in Canada and started my own company. Had two businesses actually. Had a small restaurant, cafe kind of thing. Very short-lived, but that was a great experience. You know, just
What was the restaurant?
I was just a small deli. We served soup, salad, sandwiches. Yeah, just really basic stuff. But that was quite short-lived. We got shut that down. Well, actually, we went out of business within a short time. You know, for me, you know, the experience was, well, you know, I used to be a bartender and I used to be a waiter, so yeah, I can run a kitchen. No, man, it's so much easier, and that happens in life a lot. Looking in from the outside, it always seems easier. It
correct.
really is, yeah.
100%.
Until you get in, you know, it's like even now you see all this social media stuff. You know, people think it's so easy because we only see the end result. You know, we see the glam, we see the edited version. Yeah? We don't see all the behind the scenes work that goes into it.
I think we said it before. It's like there's a thing on Instagram, one of them picture things where you got the iceberg.
Yeah,
You got like
exactly.
the top of the
Yeah,
iceberg.
exactly.
Underneath,
exactly.
so much more.
And that analogy can be applied to just about anything in life, right?
Yeah.
It's like in the trenches is where it's happening, right? But you only see the peak. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's top bit.
It's wild the amount of from the outside everything is, and I know restaurants because I used to be like bartender, barista, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then you know I've done so many things that looks easy, and I just jump in head first, kind of like you with your restaurant, and then you don't understand the nuances of everything.
No, you don't. And look, you know, that doesn't mean anything is wrong with jumping head first, because you know, for me, that's how I do it, man. I just jump head first and I figure it out as I go along, right? Because you know, in life, you know, you can't always wait to have it all figured out before you take that step. Otherwise, you'll never take that step.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people think about this whole life, like, you know, I'm gonna get this done, that done, and then you get it. It's like, no, sometimes you just gotta take the jump.
Yeah, just jump in head first, man. And if you blow up, you blow up.
And so you had that first business, and then the second one. Well, before even like telling me what your second business, how did you pick that second business? Because you had already learned a whole bunch of skills. You knew what not to do as well.
So second business, I really didn't pick. You know, it picked me, right? Which is interesting. You know, it's growing up in the Caribbean. All you're taught is go to school, get a good education, get a good job, and be some white collar worker, right? And that's true for just about every third world country.
I would say it's like that in all countries. Even in England, it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
go to school, get a good job, study hard, get good grades, and you get a good job.
Yeah.
You know?
Furthest thing from the truth, right?
So,
Really, furthest thing from the truth. You know, it doesn't even matter if there's some evidence of that happening. And well, you know, this guy's a doctor, this guy's a lawyer, this guy's but is he really doing what he's passionate about? right? He's really happy doing what he wants to do.
And it's not room for everybody. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like everyone's getting a certain career.
Yeah.
There's that only so many people can fit in that career.
Exactly,
So,
right? So, so that's what I was taught, but I ended up excelling in construction, so after my deli failed, I had a 2-year-old who I needed to feed, and a friend of mine, give me a construction hat, those hard hats for, protection and shit. And he's like, go get a job, man. So, and and that was like 22 years ago, right? So back in the day, you could walk onto a job site and go like, yo, man, you guys hiring? I need a job.
Right.
And they'll be like, yeah, sure. Can you start today? Can you start tomorrow? Kind of thing, right? So that's how I got into that, man. So, fast forward, I got into that, and I really excelled pretty quickly, but I worked for all the people as a carpenter. Studied as a laborer like everyone else does, but I had the skill already from being a kid back home, right? That's the thing about growing up in third world countries. You're always building something, and you're always using rocks as a hammer and
a plumber.
Yeah.
You're
always doing something, right? So for me, at a very young age, I was always building something. So by the time I got that job, I kind of excelled in that pretty quickly. But eh, I never felt satisfied, never felt comfortable, because I don't do well with rules, and I don't like being told what to do,
Bit like the black sheep, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's why, man, I love riding out here. I love being out here because this chaotic mess was, I was meant for that. I was built for that, because when you're out there riding, man, the rules are loose, It's like, what? That's another lane? No, it's a sidewalk. No, you're kidding. It's a lane.
That's exactly like me. That's why I love the Southeast Asia, because sometimes I just want to dumb there's too much traffic. I go on the pavement and drive down the pavement. Everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
If I do that in England, man, I'm in trouble.
Bro, it's like one-way street. What does that mean? No entry? Well, not today. We're going anyways, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So being in construction is like, I just knew, and it's really hard to be in that world because you get yelled at. It's probably getting better now, but back in the day, man, you get treated like some punk on the job site, right? And then you go home and you're supposed to be a man, you're supposed to be a husband, you're supposed to be a dad, right? But you got guys, your peers, who disrespect you and treat you like crap, so.
You doing that for a good 22 years?
No, I did that for 4 years, but that was 22 years ago, because my daughter Jasmine was 2 years old, so that's how I remember that, right? Yeah. So, but I worked in construction for all the people for 4 years, and then I transitioned into starting my own company within the same construction industry. So I studied a fencing company, building decks and fences, and then I expanded into other things. So when I studied that, I was still working full time, but on weekends and holidays, I would go build a fence for someone, like, and but I don't specialize in any one type of fence. I build all types, because the material changes, but the process is the same. It has to be straight, and it has to be
In the ground.
and it has to last 10, 20 years, yeah. And I feel bad for the guys who say, oh, we specialize in chain link or in cedar or in concrete. And it's like, what? It's like, man, you need a fence built out of newspaper, I'll do it, I got one end, a string of line, and you put it up, and then it's gonna work. So I there's something to say about specializing, but for me, if there's a buck to be made, man, if it's legal, I'll go do it. You know what I mean? So I studied that, and at one point I realized, wait a minute, man, I'm making more money on the weekend than I'm making in 2 weeks working for someone else, right? And that's the thing about freedom. It's like, you work your butt off, funding someone else's freedom dream, right?
Yeah, helping someone else's life. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not building
and
for yourself.
yeah, and while that is okay temporarily, it shouldn't be the goal. It shouldn't be forever, right? So for me, understanding the connection between money and freedom, and I wanted to be my own boss always. Yeah.
And so, at what part or what moment did you, did you figure that would that revelation come? Yeah, was it like the first Spence, like the literally first Spence, or it took you a while?
No. I was a kid when I figured that out.
Yeah.
I can't remember how young I was, but I'll tell you this. Ever since I was the tiniest kid, I've always had big dreams and big visions. I grew up on an island where I'm surrounded by black people at every turn. But my dream was to, and this is embarrassing. This sounds really weird even saying that out loud now, but I when I started watching soap operas on TV, grew up watching The Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful, man, and you see these fine women, and you go, wow, I want that. I want that, man. This is what love is. This is what a marriage is. This is what a relationship is, man. I want that. And I would always, my sister could attest to that, right? The one before me. I've got 2 brothers and 3 sisters, 6 kids in the family, and the one before me could attest to that. She says, that I used to always say that when I grow up, I'm going to marry a white woman, and something so small that may seem, whatever to.
It's your dream.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
totally is, right? And it's really funny because here I am. It's amazing how the universe works, man.
Yes.
Man, I love how the universe brings people together, right?
Yeah, I'm massive on the universe thing, man. It's a lot of stuff. Is that
Man,
how it works?
because here I am, growing up in the Caribbean growing up in a poor family, man. Going to school with flip-flops, coming home from school. Sometimes, like most times, there's no food cooked or anything, and then I have to go back to school at like 1 o'clock. So my school was from 9 to 1, and then 9 to noon, I think. Yeah, 9 to noon. Then we go home, cut for lunch, and then we start at 1 to 3:30. It's a very British system. I don't know if you do.
British system. We have food at the school, innit?
They missed that part. Yeah, we didn't get food at the school. But now they probably do. I think they do now. But when I was growing up, there was like no food at the school, man. That would have been great. But so I used to have a piggy bank. I built a little wooden box, and I'll put my little quarters in there. Whenever if I'm walking down the street and I find a quarter, I put it in there. Yeah. And then at Christmas time, I'll break that open and go buy some stupid ass toy gun, right? That's what I wanted, right? I'm getting a gun for Christmas. So go out and buy a toy of some sort. Really never really understood any, and I also had a savings account at some point, because during the summers. So during the summer holidays, I would go to work on other people's farms and help them harvest bananas that were shipped to England. Because Dominica, the main export crop was agriculture, yeah, bananas and stuff. So every 2 weeks or so, we would harvest bananas, and so that was my summer gig kind of thing, right? So from that, I had a savings account, but that money really went towards helping out to buy my own school books and uniform and stuff like that for high school. Yeah. So
you kind of just knew then that this wasn't for you.
No, it wasn't. You know what I mean? So from that very young age, understanding if you have money, you can buy what you want, right? You can do what you want. You could have a meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, open doors.
It absolutely does, right?
And so, yeah, now that you sort of, it sounds like from a young age, and then when you went and did your fencing, and then,
So
Wow.
those seeds were planted way back then. Yeah. So by the time I moved to North America, it was like, okay, well, if you want to be successful beyond just having enough money to pay your bills and put some food on the table, it has to come from owning something, right? But even at that time, it's probably 26, 27, and never really had I never really had mentors in my life. Well, I went through a period where I had some mentorship through network marketing and stuff like that, yeah, which you guys may be familiar with. But it's even today, mentorship is quite is difficult to come across unless you pay for it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you could.
I mean, yeah, I've been quite lucky that I always had like free form mentors and people that.
Oh,
What mentors? How do you get mentors?
Yeah, no kidding.
The universe is that, I've had all these mentors come in my life, and I had a mentor on life mentor, a mentor more on like business and all that stuff, and
Yeah,
but it's
that's incredible because mentorship. Well, let me rephrase that a bit. I think sometimes you can. I mean, free mentorship is available but you have to have access, right? Because you could go to now there's like networking events and stuff like that.
online.
Yeah. So now, granted, I've had a lot of mentorship that way. Yeah, I've had mentors who know nothing about me because I listen to their podcasts, I listen to the CD or the tape, or I'll listen to a book on Audible or whatever. So, but I'm talking about someone in an area like construction, for example, right? If I had a guy who would, when I started my business, I all I knew was that I could use a saw and I could use a hammer. I mean, if you look at my first fence that I built, it looks like a snake. It looks like a snake, right? Because I was, I was trying to protect my client's flower garden and build a straight fence, but the flower garden was really close on the fence line, and it was also on and the laneway, like the city laneway, was right there, so like bordering with the property line. So I was trying to not damage the city laneway and not damage for fowls. Man, fast forward today, I'll build a straight fence. I don't care about the flowers because they'll regrow. You know what I mean? The plants will grow, right? But when you're new at that stuff, But if you had a mentor to say,
That's it. It's interesting to say that if I come from a construction background, or you come from a construction background, one of my clients, he's a business coach for construction people.
A business coach?
Yeah, business coach.
Sure.
And I'll do their videos or edit the video. I've gone through so many.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that trade's a trade, it's a skill, but there's no business acumen behind it.
No.
None at all. They don't teach you that in trade school.
No.
So you kind of, when you start that construction business, you're kind of going in blind.
Yeah, you figure it out as you go, man. So.
And you're on the tools. You'll you know how to work with your hands, but there's so many efficient ways to do things in terms of with technology and adding that.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother.
It's a whole other level.
Yeah.
It's a whole other skill set. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that skill set, it comes at a cost, to acquire that. Or
That's
people who have that, right? So for me, because I'm a solopreneur, right? And I've been through employees and I've hired guys and I've, but it just it's never worked where I could scale my company and have a big team and
Yeah, I think and just some access was like a big thing.
Yeah,
like you're you'd be would call you like an immigrant in from like Canada, for me, parents were immigrants as well, so you already had this sort of
kind of a road
traditions and like culture and how you should live your life and not or become that doctor, lawyer, or whatever.
Right.
But having access to it. Luckily, from an early age, I've kind of stumbled upon that.
Yeah.
And for me, luckily, I worked, right? I love work, and I spent so much money on it. Like once you get a taste,
Yeah.
and it changes your sort of identity, and I just kept going into. I think I spent about $30,000 over a couple of years, just following around, and it was just like mindset, right? And I think for uh immigrants, or even being first generation Australian, just breaking of what
That
like
mold
how you
kind of
feel.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, breaking that cycle.
yeah. And so I'm curious because you've been doing it yourself, reading the book, the podcast, and like grabbing, getting, lessons where you can, whether it is through network marketing or anything like that. Where are you at the moment in terms of like, what did you learn across the process, and like to know where you are at the moment? And like, I'd like to add in there as well, doing all of that and self-development on yourself while having a daughter as well, which is like, I can't imagine it having that responsibility and like pressure, and trying to put food on the table is pretty intense.
I was lucky in that my kids, they have the most amazing mom. She's they could not have had a better mom. We didn't always agree on a lot of things, particularly how to raise our kids and finances and stuff like that. But the universe could not have blessed me with a better person to be a mother to these kids, man. These girls are wow, you know. Their lives will be forever great because of their mom. So there was really I don't want to say there was not pressure into making sure their needs were met or anything like that, but it's no different pressure than there was for your parents. I mean,
Everyone goes through it. Yeah.
everyone goes through
It's
it,
part
right?
of life.
Yeah, if it's one thing that two parents can relate on, is the pressure that comes with raising a family and providing for family, making sure their needs are met, kind of thing. But for me, it's my mindset has always been really, really, from for as far as I can remember, as a kid, my mindset has always been, I can do anything. You know, I was the black sheep. I was always the black sheep, even amongst my friends, right? My friends wouldn't. I didn't have a lot of friends. I still don't have a lot of friends because people don't really um negative people don't like hanging out with positive people, right? And for me, I've always been, the positive person in the group, right? And that gets pretty boring pretty fast, and
You want
and
to
that
grow.
gets, well, totally, right? And that gets pretty agitating for people who like to just be negative about anything.
It's every ways.
Yeah.
You make them feel uncomfortable. It's like,
Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. So my mindset, even now, granted, being around, like, networkers and having someone recommend a book or a CD at that time, or a podcast that you can listen to, all those little bits and pieces does help elevate, your mindset and who you become, right? But it wasn't too difficult for me, to be that, because
Yeah,
I think I was born that way.
yeah. What were some of like the biggest lessons you learned from, to shift your that identity for?
Well, like I said, there wasn't much of a shift that needed to be done, because I was, I just needed more of it,
Okay.
right? So, wow, some of the biggest lessons, were, hey, it's okay to dream big, because sometimes we try to shrink our dreams to to match other people's levels. But one of the things, one of the things I've noticed, and you may have noticed that too, if you look around, man, your friends probably don't make more money than you do. You make around the same level, income wise. And if you look out there, you'll find you can pull any group of people together, any group of friends. They make about the same amount of money. And in order for one to make more, they have to break from that group and move to another group. And whether it's money, whether it's dreams, whether it's attitude, whether it's behavior, it doesn't matter. We become
the people you hang around with kind of thing.
Totally, right? We're a product of our environment.
I've outgrown a lot of my groups.
Absolutely.
My group where I was first born with, that on the street thing.
Yeah.
I went to this group, then I went to that group, and it's like,
and you're continuously
progressing. Yeah. So if you stay around the same people, it's like you're going to become that same.
Absolutely. You never move forward, right? And it's not a bad thing, right? Some people are terrified. Sometimes you have to leave family behind because I've outgrown you.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll find like companies are always changing CEOs and stuff like that, because one CEO can take the company from this amount to this amount. That's his skill set.
Yeah. It's good, but actually good. Yeah.
Right? That's his skill set. He can't take it from there to there.
So,
he has to be replaced in order for it to go from there to there, right? So some of the biggest lessons for me was that it's okay to dream big and have dreams that scares you, have dreams that people laugh at.
And the people around you when you were dreaming, or did they support you, or?
Well, I mean, at that time, it was really just, this was mostly my family. Like I said, I never really had a lot of friends, so it's like my family were supportive, towards some of the things that we were working for, but there's one thing to be supportive in theory, and there's something else to like move forward and take active steps to make things happen, right? Because you can have dreams and you can believe all you want and you can be positive minded all you want, but there are daily steps that are required, right? In order to accomplish anything in life. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it is getting a new client to build a fence, or I mean, if you think about it, anything that you want to do, there are daily active steps you have to take, right?
Yeah.
So I've got so in construction, what is it? Well, it might be running an ad in the paper. It might be walking up to a construction site and shaking hands with a new superintendent or a new contractor, whatever it is, right? It's like going to there are daily steps you have to take.
Yeah, it's just, it accumulates, right? The more you put in, right? The more you put in, the more results you're gonna have, more inputs, more outputs, right?
Totally.
You just have to be very good with the inputs to increase more output.
Exactly. Yeah. Not worry so much about the results. The results are gonna follow the actions, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
If you're process driven and you show up every day,
exactly,
and you do the actions every day, the results will come. It's just a matter of time.
If you push the weight, you push the weight, you get the muscles. But if you 3 times a week, once a week, you ain't gonna see them change. That's a good concept.
That's perfect. Now, and then you still have that construction business.
I do. Fast forward, all these years later, and so 2006 was when I left commercial construction, moved out, studied my own thing, and decided, okay, well, this is it. So I've been doing this since 2006, and I've done some pretty amazing work, and I've added new things. So I started with fencing, and then I added building decks to it, and then I added doing flooring to it, and then I added building concrete walls, and then you just keep adding stuff as you feel capable, as you build your confidence with one thing, you kind of venture out into something else, and you add things, and so that's what I do now. And but my goal was always to retire at 50, but that was the goal.
You need a goal.
But like I said before, you could have dreams, you could have visions, you could have goals, but you have to take active steps that move you closer to accomplishing those things. And when I turned 50, it was very, it was probably one of the most disappointing, depressing days of my life, because I realized, holy crap, man, I'm broke. I'm broke, man. I have nothing but the check from my client that I just worked for, right? And I played the pity party game for a day or two, looking back and think, man, if I had done this, that, and the other thing, if I had just invested 10 grand in Tesla and hold, but that if shoulda, coulda, woulda, that doesn't really, it's a waste of time, right?
It's not worth sitting in the past, because the past becomes your present.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just had to realize, well, wait a minute. 50 sucks, but 60 can be amazing. So everything you wish you did 10 years ago that would have made you financially set at 50, let's go do it for the next 10 years. So you can look back when you're 60, look back and say, thank God I did this 10 years ago.
That's it.
Right? So for me, so towards the end of 2020, I got into the markets. I really didn't understand. I had some financial knowledge, but not a lot.
What markets are you talking?
Just trading and investing and stuff like that, right? So I had some financial knowledge, but not a lot. And man, I gotta say, I got really aggressive about learning, about just educating myself financially, because someone whom I thought was my friend, who was my financial advisor, I had a mutual fund portfolio with him, and one time he was having me sign some new documents, because they were transitioning from dealing with a new money manager. See, a lot of people don't understand, the guy who sits at your kitchen table as your financial advisor, financial planner, he's just one person in a long chain of people who's handling and making money with your money. Yeah. Because so this guy was the financial advisor, but he was dealing with a new money manager, right? So the money managers, I think, works with the hedge funds and all of that stuff, right? Those are the guys who decide which stocks they put your money in or whatever, right? And he said, so he was like, so then one of the questions was my level of understanding with all of this that I'm signing. And he goes, you don't understand much about it, so I'll just put moderate level of understanding. And that was the best thing he could have said to me at the time.
Yeah, sometimes we need that.
Bro, we need that, right? Sometimes, so anyways, when he said that, I was like, okay, I need to learn this thing.
Yeah, no one want to be moderate.
You know what I mean?
Don't put me on that level, bro.
You know what I mean?
All right, cool, yeah.
I need to learn this thing. And so I started educating myself about that. I started watching trading videos and to get on YouTube, and just I would get home from work, man, and I would get home from work at 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and I would be on my couch watching just videos on how to read candlesticks, or how to read charts, trading charts, and man, I didn't understand any of this thing. But one thing I knew was, if you spend enough time with anything, your brain is gonna make the switch.
It's got, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You got to be complacent with it. It's like, don't give up kind of thing,
You just have to
believe that it's going to.
You just have to be, right?
Same thing what we were saying with the weights. Like, you don't
totally.
see, you're doing all these weights. You think, I'm not really getting big.
Yeah.
And one day, you keep at it, you notice.
One day you notice, right? So it was the same, right? So I started just watching these videos, man, and then I got my first Tesla stock, man, and I'm just like, whoa, I'm actually making some money. So, but like everything else, I'm very impatient, right?
That emotions play into so much, and so you have to be in control with that, and that's why I don't play. Because it can be, if you're spontaneous, then you'll make decisions that don't benefit you.
Yeah. For me, it was like, patience and I'm still learning. I'm still learning the psychology of all of that stuff, right? Because, you'll get into a stock and as soon as you get in, it crashes, man. And you're like, what the hell? Come on, what's going on here?
So you started this when you was 50.
So no, so 2020, so I was like, what, 40, well, end of 2020, I would have been 46. COVID's been what, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 4 years, 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, so let's say 45, 46. And so I started just putting money in the market and being really aggressive with it, right? And one of the things that I've heard forever, I've heard for a very long time, for probably 20, probably 30 years, is you gotta pay yourself first, man. Yeah. See?
That's one lesson that I've learned as well is you got to pay yourself first.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to do that. It's
No,
really hard.
you know what?
for me.
Everything is hard until you get into the habit of doing it. You know what I mean? So forget about it being hard. Here's something that I've noticed. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you can always get by. Just imagine you had a job paying you $2,000 a month. You get by. You make that work, right? So if you have a job that's paying you $2,500 a month, you also make it work. So why don't you just pretend that you're still making $2,000 a month?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting concept. I want to delve further because I was speaking to somebody as well, and they're making good money, right? And now they needed to buy a car, right? And he had two options. First option is go something that's affordable, right? Or or go get something like a brand new BMW, put that on like a monthly. He had two options. And he said, go for the BM. And my friend, he was like, nah, it's just more sensible to get the more affordable one. But because of the advice, he said he got the new BMW. Now he's actually in a position where he's a little bit back behind the foot, and it makes you actually want to work harder, right?
Yeah, but that's not, that kind of motivation isn't healthy, right? It's because he's behind, now he has to work harder.
I mean, it's not majorly, but there has to be some sort of pain, I guess, in that sort of scenario.
But that's a waste of money, right? So much of the time we pay so much interest on everything, and we don't even pay attention to it because we think we don't give it any thought, because that's how we've been brainwashed, right? But instead of paying interest, you want to be making interest.
So going back to what you're saying, it's like with the working class, what I notice, it's like when you talk about 20,000, so what? Let's say someone gets, I don't know, 20,000 a year, and then next year they get 25. Therefore, they should be saving that 5,000.
Absolutely.
And then, then they always wanted these trainers, or they always wanted to do this. Now they're going to better restaurants, they got better clothes. And now they're getting 50,000. Yeah. I remember watching this, I can't remember who it was, but you're getting 50,000. Guess what? You're getting a better car. Yep. Better this, better that, better holidays.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, if you give them 100,000, it's like they will still spend up the money because it's just, they ain't money management.
So my ex-wife used to say, yeah, we just got this raise, but think of all of these things that I've been sacrificing or I've been doing without. Yeah, now I have this raise, I can go get those things. And that's the mindset that keeps us broke. Yeah. That's the mindset that keeps us poor. Now, it's not to say, okay, I got a $5,000 raise, I'm gonna save it all, but it's to say, well, I'm gonna save half of it. I'm gonna save $250. It's more, right? Exactly. So, money management is something that's lacking everywhere. We're not taught any of that
100%.
stuff.
They don't teach us this in school. It's like they teach us go to work, this, that. No money management skill, no life skills, no nothing.
But the wealthy people teach their kids that stuff.
Yeah, and they taught that in their schools as well.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
they learn how to make money work for them, how to get people work for them. In our schools, it's like, you know,
one of
the employer.
One of the books I read, which I would highly recommend, is I think it's called Reaching Your Full Potential.
Okay, I heard that one. I'll read that book. So
Yeah, Reaching Your Full Potential, and it's it talks about stuff like that. Yeah, about just managing your money. Being smart with your money. So this paying yourself first is really simple. What I do, and so what I've been doing since 2020, it's like, look, it doesn't matter what money comes into my hand, I put 10% into my investment portfolio. Yeah, right away. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with not paying a bill completely because you want to invest money or you want to pay yourself first. Yeah. So that's what I do. And it's really funny because at the end of a few years, I was like pretty surprised that I put a lot of money into the market. Now, a lot of it hasn't paid off, but the fact that I was able to do that by just applying that very simple principle, and this is new stuff. This is, I read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah, Richest Man in Babylon. Yeah,
you read that one? Yeah.
Like I said, I read all the books.
Bro, it's a beautiful book, isn't it? And it's like, and so all of that stuff that these people on Instagram and YouTube and trying to pretend it's new information, it's like, this is, man, this is information around since before Jesus walked on earth, man. I mean, they used like gold and fucking sheep and stuff, but it's like, that's nothing new. So if you really want to do it, and if you can't do 10%, start with 5%, start with 1%, but just if you get into the habit of doing it, it's all about creating new habits. Right? If you just put it away, it's gone, man. It's gone.
So you're trading. You're trading at the moment. Where does your daughters fit in there? You've got Jasmine, one that's Sienna, the other one. Sienna, the other one.
Where do they fit in there? What do you mean? I mean, they're young ladies. No, they live with their mom. They've got their own lives. They're figuring out their own stuff. Sienna is a singer, songwriter, waiter, bartender. She's a real hustler, man. She's very business oriented. She's 22.
Okay, so they say I pull adults now. Yeah,
shut up.
Yeah.
You've done your job.
I would love them to come out here and figure and just explore this place. And
you're the one who's. I mean,
you're the one who has to plant the seed.
And I totally have.
Now,
yeah, I totally have.
For those that I should say this in the beginning with the voice stuff. It's like most of the people that we have on our shows are already kind of living that financial freedom kind of thing, great freedom. Is that what's great with this story here is that you're on the start of it. Is that when I met you, is that we had that chat and I was like, wow, so you're on this journey, like, and I'm thinking, this is great.
Totally. And I mean, Sienna's been to Korea and she's she's plans on going to New York. I think she said December, New Year 2025. She wants to go to New York and just do her thing and chill and explore and I have no doubt she's gonna travel the world and she's gonna do amazing things. Both the girls. Jasmine is still trying to figure herself out and decide what she wants to do long term. But I have no doubt that once she's ready, to get out there and do her thing, she's gonna thrive just as much and as well as Sienna is. So so for me, it's like this is the biggest, most scary thing I've done on my own. It's like
that's
at my age, man.
But that's. I mean, even when you was talking about doing the trading and that, and I was thinking at such a late age, but it's great for people who's watching. It's like it's never too late.
It's never too late, right? Because I mean, I don't know how long I'll be on this planet, but I'm gonna do everything I can that when I can no longer work or when I can no longer move or mobile, I'll have something, and if I happen to pass away before any of that stuff materializes to anything significant, then my girls will get it, and that's totally fine as well.
And you're in, you're in Bali now, and there are so many traders, right?
Yeah, I met a few guys out there I went to Nirvana Beach Club. Yeah, that place is amazing, man. So met a few guys out there in the crypto space and stuff like that.
Yeah, lots of all. Yeah.
The interest, one fascinating thing for me is that age of 50, and you're learning, you're throwing yourself in the deep end, yet to another thing.
Yeah.
And you have a look at it now, where in my industry, in the industry that's coming, with AI, people are scared of it. They're scared of losing their jobs and whatnot, but they just need to do what you do and just like jump into it and learn, because it's the only way you're gonna survive. And
I definitely need to be. I'm kind of a late adapter, right? I always get into things on the tail end. So AI, especially with trading and investing. I mean, AI is definitely something I should be a bit more aggressive with knowing about and learning about and tapping into. I don't. I understand parts of it, not a lot of it. It is scary when you look at things like Chat GPT, and I think we touched on that briefly. Um, uh, these things are gonna like almost like I can understand why people are afraid that it would take away from their jobs and stuff like that. But I also think it would help people be better at their jobs.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
pessimist, optimist is how people want to look at it.
Yeah. So I think it's the same as computers, right? I mean, when computers
came out,
they
sink or swim.
in the marketplace, it's like they help people, right?
Yeah, I think here as well, in Bali as well. I know a few traders, but and you mentioned the crypto space as well. It's always the young man's game, and like you put yourself in that group, and like you have nothing but you can only gain from that. These kids are gonna. With my business, man, the scariest thing about my business is I'm scared of the young ones, the 10-year-olds or the 15-year-olds that's gonna fly by.
Yeah. And so for me, it's money. I'm not really attached to money. I understand. It takes money to make money, within reason, right? So I'm not really attached to it. I'm not afraid of like I've put a lot of money in the market, and I've lost a lot of money in the market. I've had a lot of unrealized losses, and what do I mean by that? Well, if you buy something at $5 and it's down to like $1, there's an unrealized $4 loss. Now, it's not lost until you sell at $1 and then it's gone, right? Or it's not lost until it's the company is 100%, And I've had, I mean, if you look at my portfolio is way too diverse. So I have a lot of companies on there that have gone from whatever it was selling at to some of them went belly up. But one of the things I've learned from hedge fund managers is it only takes one or two companies to make your fortunes.
Yeah.
To make your fortune, you know what I mean? So I'm not worried. The market is like throwing mud on the wall, man. To a certain extent. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of research you can do with you can look at companies' fundamentals. You can do technical analysis. You can look at the financials. But at the end of the day, the market is controlled by people's emotions, right?
Yeah.
We buy and sell all the time because of emotions.
I think that's the first thing you kind of learn about in that. About emotions.
So if you see price, if you see price rising on a particular stock, it's because people they're emotionally attached to it. They think there's something good there, so they buy it. Yeah. But if a little bit of bad news comes out about that company, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Emotionally,
made them
man, they sell, and then the thing just the tanks. Yeah.
and everyone else was pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. Left holding the bag. I've left holding a lot of bags, man. But I understand. That's the name of the game. That's the risk. That's the whatever.
Yeah, you got to have skin in the game. That's a learn.
You gotta, and some for me, I look at that as the tuition that I'm paying to the market to learn that stuff, right?
That's it.
So one day, I'll throw 10 grand into something, and it will, it'll make me 100 grand.
Or you
I know that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like with everything, man. It just takes one. Like with business,
only takes one.
It just takes one idea sometimes.
Absolutely.
It's something with what you're saying. It just takes one lucky pick on that.
Just one lucky pick on that.
Yeah.
It's like, I look at some small crypto stuff that I've heard of or I've seen across my screen, and I just, and these things go from like 50 cents to $3. And you go like, well, this is where I should have had 10 grand. I've got 10 grand sitting in something over there, which is not for 4 years, which isn't moving shit, I'm like, but no one knows. No one knows who the next Tesla is going to be, or the next Amazon, or the next Google.
That, to talk something and it goes up.
Absolutely. If you look at what Doge is doing, right? I mean, I think probably 4 years ago, Doge went from whatever it was to like 80 cents or something like that when Elon Musk.
As I was looking for the Elon Musk,
right. And that was the first time it did this huge run, right? From nothing to 80 cents. And it plummeted back down to whatever. I think I got 3 coins at like 25 cents a coin. And now the thing is up like 60 cents, right? And then meanwhile, I've got money in some other thing that's just sitting there, which is like
stale. Yeah. What do your daughters think about Dad doing this? Yeah, it's
my girls are, they're pretty impressed with me living my life. I mean, so I've been divorced for, I think, November this year is 8 years now, and I've just been living my life, on my terms. Free to a certain extent, but not financially free yet.
we distracted, Sam.
We got distracted there. But
no kidding, man.
Something just flew past the window.
Yeah.
That was a birdie.
So blonde
bird.
hair, dumb dad,
Long bird.
So I mean, my kids are quite. I think based on my conversations with them, they're quite impressed with me, and I mean, I would love to. It's really funny. I mean, I see these kids riding these bikes, younger than my girls, and I'm just thinking of how proud I would be on my kids to see them just charging the streets, man, just riding around and just doing their thing. I'm just like, oh wow, and I'm sure they will, because Southeast Asia is I think it's a place where everyone from the West should visit at some point in their lives.
100%. And I think
it's just so different out here.
Yeah, I think stepping away from where we come from, like the Western world, and coming out here, it's a bit of a different world.
It is.
This is where you start to learn about yourself, learn about life and independency that on your core. Because when you're home in your own country, if you fall, someone might be around, a close family member, someone to catch you. But when you're out here, you're on your own.
You're on your own, man.
So you have to,
Yeah. And so it's, when I first got here, it's like, I would love to own businesses here. One of the things I'm noticing though is it seemed like, I've looked around a little bit. I've met a few business people. Some guys are in the villa space. Like mostly buying, renovating, renting. And one of the things I'm noticing here is a lot of people are taking the spaces from what they are, like even like this very basic place, and they're renovating into more luxurious units. Yeah, and what people may not be realizing is it's really pricing people out of units, yeah, because this places that are going that are now you could rent for, let's say, $500-600 a month, and there's a huge scale as far as what you
Yeah,
can pay.
there's a
Yeah,
gap. There's like there's like luxurious, and then there's like ultra
yeah,
luxurious, and it
yeah,
gets beyond.
totally.
And then you've got hostels, you know, and you've
Absolutely, for $2-3 a night, and that's fine, because you want to be able to provide for different people at different income brackets and stuff like that, which is great, yeah. But it's so for me, it just feels like it's killed or be killed out there for some reason. It as far as the business world goes, it feels like everyone is in a hurry trying to get their slice of the pie. Have you seen like a pack of um
Hyenas.
hyenas? Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. A pack of hyenas on the kill, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is just trying to grab their own slice.
Yeah.
And it gets exhausting. I'm just looking in from the
Yeah,
outside.
from a construction point of view, what you've done, seen, I guess the market here, and how
Yeah,
that's
But
what it's like.
but I still think there is room for me, and it's a vision, it's a dream, and so my plan is to really go home and get rid of everything, man. Get rid of everything, and I want to move out here and build a life out here.
That's what I was going to actually ask you. So yeah, it's good that you're saying that, because
Yeah, yeah.
you've been here for a little while now. How has it made you feel? Because how long have you been here?
About a month. I got here November
month.
4th. Yeah. But I mean, I'll be here until the plan is I was gonna fly to Thailand end of January. I was gonna spend a month in Thailand, Phuket, and fly out of Bangkok back to Canada. But that really depends. I'll see when January rolls around. I'll see I'll decide what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
And so, sort of like pardon advice, but I'm going to change it up a little bit with this one. Is I love your story and where you come from, right? And then you've got the kids as well,
Yeah.
right? Actually, let's do both of them. So the first one is like they've everything that you learned and everything that you've gone through, all the lessons that you learn. What imparting words of advice would you give to your daughters? Right?
Oh man,
Good question, bro.
that's great. And I've been, my daughters will tell you, man. It's like I'm a broken record, man. One of the things that
Dad.
yeah. One of the things I've been like really just trying to drill into my daughters' heads is to invest, man. Save. Especially now that they're still living at home. I'm like, look, if you can, clearly you need to help out, help your mom out with some of the expenses if she wants to. But yeah, because when you think about it, if you were to move out and get a roommate, let's say you would spend about let's say $500 a month on rent. If you have a roommate renting a place for $1,000, you're spending $500 on rent plus your food, plus your this, that, and the other thing, right? I'm like, now if you're at home, you should be able to invest 50% of your paycheck.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could move. Actually, man, this is really great. I wish I could move back into a family member's home and not pay rent. So in February of 2023, I made this really bold move, which is something that I have been planning for a while. I'm thinking about for a while. Again, taking steps towards accomplishing the bigger goal. I moved out of my apartment. I put all my stuff in storage. I have got a cargo trailer that I use for construction with my tools and stuff. And I put all of my stuff from my apartment in there, which wasn't a lot of stuff, mostly kitchen stuff. And anyways, and I moved out of my apartment. So my rent was about $1,250, $1,500 sometimes a month. And I started sleeping in my truck, in my work truck, right? Because I also work all over the Lower Mainland. So what that meant for me is I didn't have to drive back to a location, at the end of every day. Wherever I'm working, man, I sleep a block from my job, right? Save money on gas, save time, and save a ton of money on my rent. So I was able to put a ton more money into the market. I was able to save up a ton of money for this trip, right? And I just felt so free. And that's the thing about being here. It's like you live this minimalist lifestyle, especially if you're jumping from villa to villa, you want to be in Canggu, you want to live in Ubud, you want to be in Semniak, wherever you want to be. You can't have 2-3 suitcases. What does that mean? Man, I came out here with a gym bag, and to be honest with you, today is in a month, it's the first time I've worn a full shirt.
Yeah,
man, I bought this and I've worn this every day with my tank tops. I'm always ready to swim, man. I'm always ready because you're at a beach club and you're like, shoot, I don't have my swim trunks. It's like, well, just you know what I mean. So I wear the same two. I've got 2 of my training shirts that I wear, and I wake up, I have breakfast, hit the gym, and go somewhere. Hit the gym and then go to bed. So I'm just like, who needs a suitcase here? So I'm looking at my gym bag thinking, man, I've got a few pieces of items that I need to get rid of. And I bought a suit jacket so I could go to dinner. Come on, man. It's too hot out here, man.
I had the same problem when I bought a lot of stuff I didn't need.
No, man.
everyone does that, man, on the first time.
And if you need a nice shirt for dinner, man, there's a $2 shirt over there.
I say to all my friends who come out, I'm like, don't bother buying all your toiletries and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cheap. Don't buy all new shorts and all that stuff. I said,
Forget
buy
that,
all that
man.
here, man.
Yeah. Go to the flea market.
That's it.
Doesn't matter if the stitch is off. Who cares?
Yeah. And that second part of the question, if you had to go back, advice for yourself or somebody to yourself. And
I wish I could do that.
because there's a lot of people in construction that I
So
see.
there's a lot of people watching that.
Yeah. No, if I could go back to being like, even when I was a bartender in St. Martin, if I could go back at 19, 20, I would do things very differently with money. I would save 90% of my money.
So, what would you say to yourself? If you could go back and talk to yourself.
Man, I would be like, brother, you got, because, the bar I worked at, I got 1 meal. So I worked, so I had 2 jobs at the time. Like 19, 20, I worked at a beach club. I ran the water sports shop. So I got a meal there, and then I got off work there about 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then I started work at 5, 6 at the restaurant bartending, and I got a meal there. So I had 2 meals paid for.
So you save that money.
So and I did. I lived in St. Martin for 4 years, and I saved about 12 grand for a 19-year-old kid. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, especially out there.
Well, I have a feeling you would know my uncle, yeah.
Maybe
Somewhere.
maybe.
There's I think, there's yacht charters and stuff
Yeah.
around there, yeah.
But that's what I would do if I could go back in time. I would save, and I would hustle more, man. I used to be a hustler, but now I've gotten lazy now, and just
When you have the kids in there,
yeah. Well, no, I mean with the kids, I mean it's like you can still get out there and do one more thing, right? Because
you're doing it right now, man.
Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You're here in Bali.
Yeah,
You've been here for a month for that.
just trying to live the life, man.
Yeah.
And it's been great. It's really shown me that I can, because I was just watching a travel blogger, because I was gonna go to the Philippines last year, and I was just watching travel bloggers, man, and I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna go to the Philippines, man. This place looks amazing. And I got a ticket, but ended up canceling that. And then I was watching another show, and I saw Bali this, Bali that, man. I was just like, wow, this
It's funny that we're a place to be right now, I think.
man. So I just
Travel all over Southeast Asia, Bali's.
Yeah.
We've got something going for.
wow, yeah. So got a ticket in February, and decided I was going in November, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm here, man. Yeah. So
it looks like you'll be back. So
yeah,
so
the goal is to rinse and repeat. It's like head home in February, work my butt off, save everything I can, start selling some stuff that I just don't need to hang on to, and come back here in November. Hopefully, this one guy that I met who's into the villas stuff, he's got some opportunity that I could do some small investment with him. So,
Already first month in. So,
Man, you see a lot of people with the villa stuff. That's one of the biggest market things what's going on here.
and you can build the fence out of newspaper.
yeah, totally right.
There you go.
But so this guy is legit, and I've seen some of his properties and stuff like that. So,
Give you something to think about when you go home.
Yeah.
no, I'm done thinking about that. I just have to go home, get the money, and
Just put in the actions.
Yeah.
Execute.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, it was great having you on, Sam.
Yeah,
Mate,
sure.
we haven't had a guest like you yet, which I'm interested to
See where things
see where
end.
things end up.
I'm hoping, we're gonna see each other again. We're gonna do this show again.
In a couple of years, I'll be like, man, I blew up.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to it, man. Definitely.
Yeah.
But man, thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure, man.
Okay.
Appreciate it, man.
Legends.
Absolutely, man. You bet you. It was fun.
Cool. So, is there anybody that's watching and listening that might want to, connect with you or whatnot? Best way for them to connect.
Yeah, sure. You can reach me on Instagram at r.samuel_kitchen, KITCHEN. That's probably the best way to reach me. Cool. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. This is the end of the episode. And next week we'll be back with another guest. All right. Ciao.
Nice one, guys.